Hello everyone, my name is Saurabh Kumar and I welcome you all to my video series where we are covering the syllabus of AWS. So we have reached today in part number 4. Before we have already finished up to part 3 where we have discussed about foundation of cloud computing, fundamental of cloud computing, and then we discuss about the cloud characteristics, storage characteristics, such kind of things. In this video, I will be mostly discussing about the AWS certifications part, meaning that what type of examination is going to happen, what is the examination code is, the details of exam. So let's begin. So let's see here what we are going to cover. Actually, that we will be covering here two things inside of this particular part, that is overview of Amazon certification. We will be having look at it, that how we can get the Amazon certification and what are the exams offered by Amazon. Then we will be talking about an exam called as a AWS SAC02. Actually, that is the exam code, or that is the training which we are preparing right now. So we are going to have a broad discussion on both of them. Let's begin now. So here you see, here I have tried to take a snapshot of the Amazon certification which is nowadays available in 2020. So this is the new and latest picture I took from Amazon. Here you can see what are the examinations are being offered by Amazon. So if you see in the downside, it is starting first with the foundation part, meaning that those guys, for example, somebody just having a 6-month experience or something similar to that, those who are fresher, you can say, in IT, those, if they want to have a certification related to Amazon, related to AWS, they can go for this certification. They can go for AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner. So in this certification, what they are going to actually cover, they will be covering basic part of it. They will be covering basic thing about it. And those basic things is nothing else, meaning that they will be getting some basic knowledge related to cloud computing. Thereafter, the second level we have, that is associate level. So after the foundational level, we have the associate level, that is the next level. In the associate level, if you see, there are three different paths are. Somebody may do the association level, they can achieve the association level inside of this, maybe like in solution architect. Somebody can do it in a ops administration, system operation administration, and somebody can do it in a developer. So for us, like a IT person, those who are doing ITIMS, all of you guys, those who are doing ITIMS course, those who talk about the solution architect, like infrastructure, making network ready, making server ready, and such kind of things, those people generally go for the certification called as a AWS solution architect. This is the path for us. So in this path, we are actually there, but other paths are also there, like somebody can do AWS certification in SysOp also, somebody can do in a developer also, but the label of all these three will be same, only the technology will change. So this is associate level. Associate level requirement is everybody, those who are planning to do this examination or certification, they should have at least 1 year of experience solving problem and implementing solution using the AWS cloud. And if you are done with the association level, then you can shift, then you can go for the next level, that is professional level. So at the professional level, you can see there are two exams are available for us, like those people who are in a ITIMS, they will be going for the examination like AWS solution architect, but it will be a professional level. And those, any of these two people who was doing maybe associate level with the sysops or maybe with the developer, they will be having a one exam there, and that will be giving them the professional level, and that exam is called as again AWS DevOps engineer. So basically this is nothing else, those software people, those who are planning to move to the professional level, they will be doing this exam. But for us, like those who are in ITIMS, if we want to go for the professional level exam, then we will be going for the AWS Solution Architect. So these are the path, these are the examination path which anybody can follow when they want to have a certification, when they want to have the certificate from Amazon in the AWS. There are some other kind of specialties are also there, like somebody may have a specialty in advanced networking, somebody may have in AWS security, somebody can have in machine learning. So these are some of the other specialties are. Like here, if you see in the list of specialty, we can you will be able to see one specialty somebody can do in advanced networking, somebody can do a certification of a specialty in security domain, somebody can do it in a machine learning domain, somebody can do in a Alexa skilled builder. So these are some of the specific type of certification, and generally these certifications are needed when you are working in a special kind of project. For example, let me tell you one example. Let's say that your company is right now using private cloud, or maybe your company is no longer using any cloud right now, but your company is planning to go to AWS cloud. So there will be obviously need of some person who is expert in networking. There will be some need of person who is expert in database. There will be need of some people who is expert in security. So that time company may ask you that do the specialty certification, then you will be a part of the project. And those specialty certification you can do in networking, you can do in database, you can do in security, you can do in machine learning, you can do in data analytics. So these are some of the specialty type of certifications are being offered by the Amazon. So here I have tried to talk about what are the tracks are there. So somebody who is maybe starting a career, he can go with this format. For example, first he do the cloud practitioner, then he will be doing architecture associate exam, and then he will be doing the professional exam. If somebody is more interested in software side, so he may go with the foundation, go with maybe developer, and then he will go for the professional exam. So these are the formats anybody can follow up. For you guys, those who are in ITIMS area, those who are mostly dealing about the networking, those who know what is network, how to manage network devices, server management, virtualization, those kind of things, you will be going for this path. You will be following this path of cloud practitioner, then going to architect, then going to the architect professional. Alright, so now I'm going to talk about what is SSA C02 is. This is what actually the certification or the exam which we are preparing for in this training. So let me explain you in a better way what is SSA C02 is. So first of all, when we talk about old name of it, the old certificate was having the name AWS SAA C02. That is the old certificate name. AWS I'm just adding because it is related to AWS. So actual the certificate name is SAA C01. So here AS means solution, A for architect, and A for associate, C for certificate, and 01 is the code. So that is a bit old certificate because in 2020 itself, in year 2020, this certificate has been upgraded with the new certificate now. So the new certificate name is AWS SAA C02, meaning that Solution Architect Associate Certificate 02. This is the new certificate name. This is and the previous one was C01. So for us in our training, we are going to have the syllabus, we are going to cover the syllabus of new certificate, that is C02. While if I talk about C01, they are still offering it because of some pandemic situation and all, they are still offering this exam, but obviously it's going to be expired soon, and now we have to only go for the new certificate name only, that is C02. So that's why in my syllabus I will be covering whatever the topic which is under the SAAC02. Let's try to get some more information about it. So first of all, this certification launched by Amazon on 23rd March 2020. So this is the date when they launched it. They announced that okay, now our certification, those who are planning to do, there will be a new pattern and the name will be C02. But because of some this pandemic situation and all, they were able to make it available so that somebody can do the exam, and the date was 7th April 2020. So from 7th April 2020 till now, you will be able to do this exam at any nearest Pearson testing center. You just have to visit your nearest Pearson testing center, nearest Pearson VUE center, and therefrom you will be able to do this exam. Next point about it, that as I told you, I have just mentioned here in the notes so that you can have a full name of it. It is AWS, means Amazon Web Service. SAA means Solution Architect Associate Certificate 02. That's the full name of it. Another thing about when we talk about this certification, so there are actually 4 major domains are in this training. Here are the name of them. So domain 1 is design resilient architectures. Domain 2 is design high performing architecture. Domain 3 is design secure application and architectures. And domain 4 is design cost optimized architecture. Meaning that the syllabus of this certification has been categorized into 4 domain, 4 parts. And here is the some value written of it, that first domain, meaning that when you sit for the exam, when the question comes to you, 30% of question will be coming from this domain, 28% of questions will be coming from this domain, 24% will be coming from third domain, and 18% question will be coming from fourth domain. So altogether that will be the 100% question. So whatever question comes out of that, 30% will be coming from first domain, 18% will be coming from fourth domain, 24 from third domain, and 28 from the second domain. Clear? So when you are preparing for your exam, you have to make yourself ready accordingly also. So if you see the one of the you can say like first domain, you can say that it is having more weightage compared to others. The less weightage is there for domain number 4. So if your first domain is very good, then you will be able to solve more question. But again, if you want to really pass the exam, you have to be ready with all the domains, because the passing score is very high. It requires almost 72% marks to pass this exam. I will be discussing all those things also in the end of this video. So let me now continue. I'm going to now talk about each and every domain, each and every this 4 domain one by one. I will be explaining you that what exactly we are going to cover in this each domain. Like for example, if you are covering first domain, what are the things you are going to learn there, what are the things you are going to learn in domain 2, what are the things you are going to learn in domain 3, what are the things you are going to cover in domain 4. So let's begin with domain number 1, that is design resilient architectures. So in this domain, we are going to cover first thing about the AWS foundational services, meaning that what are the basic or foundational level services are being offered by AWS. That is what we are going to cover here. We will be also discussing some AWS global infrastructure terms, like what is region, what is AZ, what is edge location, what is regional edge cache. These are some of the terminologies which we supposed to be knowing before we continue about the training and all. So these terms are the part of the first domain, that is design resilient architecture. Then the another thing we are going to talk about, that is AWS storage services. What kind of storage services are being offered by AWS, and we will also see practical of it, like how to provide the storage services, how to manage it, how to configure it and all. Then we will be talking about multi-tier architecture, like example is VPC. So guys, when I tell you the term VPC, it means virtual private connection. So the meaning that we are talking about this time networking. So the net, whenever I tell the term VPC in the complete training of AWS, you can keep in your mind that I am talking about networking. Networking inside the Amazon is having a term called VPC. Next thing is we will be talking about Amazon DR. DR yesterday, last session also we discussed about. It is something like disaster recovery and business continuity solution. Like meaning that what are the Amazon disaster recovery solutions are, and how do they make sure that business continues even if there is any disaster or something. So those things will be covered in the first domain. Plus also it will be covering decoupled and event drive architectures. So we will be talking about some terms like SNS, SQS, Lambda. So these are some of the terms also we are going to talk about, and that is nothing else. When I talk about, for example, Lambda, what is actually Lambda is? It is serverless services. So what it is, how does it work, that I will be discussing obviously later on. As of now, what you can just see that these are the topic, these are the points which we are going to cover in the first domain, like Lambda, SNS, SQS. So Lambda is nothing else like it is going to provide a serverless services. For example, if I compare it with Azure, in Azure we are having a term called Azure function. That is also something similar like a serverless services. Then we will be also discussing about something related to the logs. So let's first continue about it. Now I'm going to move about the second domain here. So second domain is all about design high performing architecture. So what are the things we are going to cover in the second domain? So first of all, we will be talking about high performance compute solutions. All compute solutions like EC2. We are going to see how to make EC2, how to use it and all. Then Elastic Beanstalk, EC2 auto scale, how to do that. Then ELB. So ELB is nothing else. It's like a load balancing, elastic load balancing. Like the way if you have learned Windows Server, there is a term called NLB. So everyone is having some some technology for load balancing. So here Amazon is using a term called ELB, elastic load balancing, that we are going to discuss in second domain. Then we are also going to discuss about high performance storage solutions, like for example we talk about VPC. We are also going to talk about VPC. Again, what is VPC is, as I mentioned earlier, VPC means about the networking, like endpoint, VPN, NACL, SG, ENI, network address translation gateway, Boson host. So these are the things which we are going to cover related to networking in domain number 2. We will be also discussing about AWS databases like RDS. We will be talking about multi-agent availability zone, then DynamoDB, cached clusters. So these are the things will be covered in the second domain. Now I'm going to move to the third domain. What we will be covering in third domain. So here the third domain name is design secure application and architectures, where we will be talking about how to secure. You see the term here, secure, right? So we will be focused on securing something, like securing access to AWS service resources or services. So generally this task we are going to perform by the help of IAM. So what is IAM? Is identity access management, means who you are, what's your user ID, what is the access you have, what's rights you have, what access right you have. That thing will be managed by IAM, Amazon Cognito, AWS organizations. So these are the some of the technology will be used to do the secure of resource management or AWS resource securing. Then we are also going to cover here securing about application tiers like AWS WAF, we will learn here. AWS Shield we will learn here. Then we are also going to learn about securing data tiers such as AWS config, cloud trial. So these are the things we are going to learn. Cloud trial is, if I talk about cloud trial, it's something same like if you're using Windows machine, you have a log file, right? Where all the event log generates are being stored and you check it. If you talk about Linux machine also, there is a folder where which contain all the log file. So similarly in AWS, in Amazon, they have given the name that is called as a cloud trial here. Then we are also going to discuss about overview of data encryptions by using AWS KMS. KMS is something like key management service. So here these are the points, these are the things which we are going to discuss in the third domain of this training. And now we are moving to the fourth and final domain, that is design cost optimized architecture. Because every businessman, they want to reduce their cost of their business so that they can get better profit. So for you, if you are going to work as a AWS engineer, AWS associate, AWS administrator, obviously company will have some hope from you, company will have some trust on you, company will be looking some suggestion from you which can save their money to continue their business. So basically this fourth domain is all about how you can save your money, how you can reduce the running cost of any business. So in this fourth domain, we will be talking about cost effective storage solutions which is being offered by AWS like S3, Glacier, EFS, a storage gateway, AWS backup, such kind of things. We are also going to talk about cost effective compute solutions, like how you are going to have the reserved instance, what are the saving plans you are going to use there. And then we also going to learn about the last thing, that is cost effective network solutions. What network method you are going to use, what network devices you are going to use, how you are going to optimize the resources, how you are going to make sure that the less resources you use and better functions you get to save the money, to save the reduce the cost of any running infrastructure. So this was all about the four domains which is inside this training, because as I told you, this certification SAA C02 is having four domains, and I have also told you about which domain is having how much weightage in the examination. So according to those four domain, what are the topic, what are the kind of new things we are going to learn in this training, that is what I have explained up to now. Now I'm moving to the next slide here, where we are going to talk about global exam details. In case if you are planning to do this exam, what are the things you supposed to be knowing about it? So let's have a look the detail of this global exam. First point about it, that the exam code is SAA C02. Next thing about the exam detail is, this exam may cost you around $150. That's the price for this exam. In case if you are willing to go for this exam, the charge for this exam is $150. But obviously they can give you some discount if you keep visiting, Amazon site, or maybe if you go to Pearson VUE site. You may find sometime that they also offer some kind of discount. They may give you 10%, 20% discount, and that will reduce the cost. So sometime you may get this exam at like $120, $125, but lowest it can go up to like $100. It is not going to below that. So at least you can assume that the price is 150, but according to the time to time offer, the price may vary, the price may go a bit low. Next point about it, that the total duration for this exam, you are going to get 130 minutes to do this exam. So when you sit for the exam, when you start your exam, from that time up to 130 minutes you will have your time to answer all the questions. And obviously now you must be thinking that how many number of questions are going to come. So there will be approx 65 questions, and these questions are, some of them are going to be MCQ, multiple choice question, where you will have four options and you just have to choose the correct one. plus some of them are going to be like a scenario based. They will just give a condition that this is the company, this is what they are having, so what will be the best solution. So that type of question will be there also, that is called as a scenario based question. So the total question is going to be 65. To solve that 65 question, you are going to get 130 minutes, and to attempt this exam the cost is $150. So you have this cost of $150 to sit for one attempt. In case if you are not going to pass, so how will you pass? Obviously you must be thinking now that how much I have to score. So you have to score 720 at least minimum to pass this exam out of 1000, which is going to be approx 72%. So the total marks is 1000. Out of that, if you score 720, that means you are going to clear this exam, that means you are passed. In case by bad luck or maybe your preparation was not enough, if your score is less than 720, that means you have lost that money. That money is not going to be come back. So this price which I am talking about is for one attempt. Once you go for attempt, you pay this money. If you fail, you again pay for the next attempt. If you fail again, you again pay for the next attempt. Obviously it's not going to happen if you are really good for you are ready for the preparation. If you are preparing hard, you are going to clear it in a one shot. So this is what I wanted to just share here, the information. Who is going to be the examination body, who is going to conduct this exam? So the exam body is going to be Pearson VUE. That's the examination body for the any of Amazon examination. The same like if you go for CCNA exam, if you go for Microsoft exam and all. So this is examination body who is going to do this examination. And once you pass this exam, any of the exam of Amazon, it is also going to have some validity period. Same like if you do any Microsoft exam, if you do any Cisco exam, they also have the validity. Similar to that, this Amazon examinations are also valid for 3 years. So for example, if I today give the AWS exam of SAA C02, from today up to 3 years, my certificate will be valid. Thereafter, either I go for the next level exam so that I will save my certificate, or either I have to redo the exam to save or continue my examination. Otherwise, the certificate will expire. Why do they do that? Because they think that they can give you only the period of 3 years, because every year some change are happening in the IT world. So if somebody has got certified today, maybe after 3 years they think like there are so many number of change are there, so they should go for recertification. They should again if they are in the same field, they must be knowing those new technology which has come, and to check those that either you are comfortable with the new technology which has come or not, they go for the recertification. You have to do the re-examination, and thereafter your certificate will be again valid for next upcoming 3 years. So that is what the details are there related to the exam. Alright, so now we can also get this kind of details from our you can go to simply browser, and you can also get these details from the Amazon site. So simply you can go to Google and search about it also, SAA C02 SAA C02 AWS. If you look with this search, you are going to get some detail on it. Let me follow this link. So here you see it's AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate, and if you scroll down, you are going to get some detail here, like the exam details are: format of the exam is multiple choice, multiple answer. The type of the exam is associate level. Then the delivery method of the exam can be, you have to either go to the testing center, you have to visit your nearest testing center to do this exam, and it is also available in the format of online. So you can do this exam from anywhere online, but for that it requires proctored. You have to consult somebody who can offer you the proctored exam. Then the time, as I said before, it is going to be 130 minutes to complete the exam. The cost is approx 150 USD and practical exam if is separate. For that you have to pay extra 20 USD. And the language in which you will be able to do this exam, those are English, Japanese, Korean, and some simplified Chinese also. So these are the language in which you will be able to do the exam. These are the cost detail, then time, delivery method, type, format. You can see from here what are the recommended knowledge and experience you need for doing this exam. So here are some of the details. You may visit this page and you can collect these details. Here is also a link to prepare for an exam, so they will just give you some information related to this exam and all the details. So you can anytime visit this site also, and you will be able to see some details related to the exam. In case if they give you any offer or something, you may also be able to see from here. If in case they change the cost, you will be able to see from here. So I hope up to now everything is clear. Now I'm moving ahead because as per the plan, this particular session was covering about the exam details, but we can also go a bit beyond of it. So let us continue. Let us have a look on something else, that is AWS services synopsis. Meaning that here you can see how the AWS services are being offered to any of the consumer. So what is the foundation of providing any service? Here if you see, start looking from the downside, what you supposed to be knowing if you want to provide anybody service. So you supposed to be knowing first of all AWS global infrastructure. First of all your infrastructure has to be there, right? And the infrastructure depends on three things. Those are regions, availability zone, and edge location. So even if I am a client, if I am a customer of AWS, when I am making my own virtual machine, when I am creating my instance, I have to start my steps by choosing the region, by choose or getting availability zone and edge location, understanding these things. Then I will be creating any of the foundational service. Either I want to use a compute service only, or I want to use a storage service there, or I want to keep all of these database, storage, networking, compute, all of them. Then on the top of that, I will be choosing what application platform I am looking for. Am I looking to content distribution? I am looking for messaging. I am looking for search. Am I looking for distributed computing? Am I looking for any libraries and SDK? Thereafter, we will be looking for the management also. Because for example, if I create any user account on Amazon, so how the Amazon is going to handle these things, how it will be making sure that which user is going to have what rights, what permission. So as I discussed before, you are going to get all the services by web interface first of all. So you will be having a AWS management console. In the upcoming session, maybe in next session itself, I'm going to show you how the AWS management console looks like, what you can do from there. Thereafter, the second part is identity and access management. So that is called as IAM, which is going to check who you are, what rights or what permission do you have. Then the deployment and automation. You have already having an idea about the deployment and automation. So that will be the next part. And then the monitoring. When you have all of this thing ready, obviously you are going to look for something, some service which will help you to monitor your instances, to monitor your VM, to monitor your services running on the Amazon. So this is how the AWS services are being offered. But what you see, the very first thing is it require AWS global infrastructure, and that infrastructure depends on three things: region, zones, and edge location. So now I'm going to explain all of these three terms: region, availability zone, and edge location, one by one in the next slide. So let me start with this slide here. I have made three different column. In one column I'm going to discuss about what is regions. See what is region is. You know about the globe, right? In globe we have some regions. You can call it like a, geographical locations. For example, one region is, let's say that Asia is one region, Africa is another region, Europe is another region. Similar to that, Amazon has also made some regions. they have separated this world with some regions, that okay, I will be keeping my one region. Let's say that in Asia, I have a region for Mumbai. Maybe I have a region in, let's say that in Tokyo. Maybe I have a region in Singapore. So what it is going to be a location, and all the customers who are willing to get a service, they will be keeping their data. They will be making their services running over there on that specific region where from they belongs to. But there are some conditions, like for example, if you are creating a user account, it's not defined with any region. If I create, for example, my user account, it's not valid only for a specific region. But yes, if I create a virtual machine, that time it asks me which region you want to keep it. So those things we will be discussing later on. Let us right now just try to understand what is regions, what is availability zone, and what is edge location. So when I talk about region, it is nothing else like a geographical regions, or you can say like global presence of Amazon. Where are the country, which are the country where Amazon is available, or what are the part of earth where Amazon is available. So when I talk it about like that, we can also say that region is a geographical place that has a data center. So let's assume that, for example, when uh, when we talk about entire India, let's say that. So maybe right now Amazon thinks that entire India can be inside the same region, so they just make one region in India. But maybe if America, United States of America is a little bit big in size and they have more load there, they can have multiple regions there. They can have a region for East USA, they can have a region for West USA, like that. So as of now, when I'm talking about the regions, currently if I go with the data available in March 2020, as they have updated, they say that they are having 24 regions as of now. Meaning that their data centers are available how many places? In 24 regions. They can have more than that data center. I'm talking about the regions in geographical areas. How many geographical area Amazon is covering right now? That is 24. 24 regions are there. Now inside the regions, they can go for the next thing that is called as a availability zone. So in a generic term, we call it as a data center, but here Amazon call it not a data center, Amazon call it availability zone. So for us to understand it, we can call it data center. Data center is a generic term. It is used by everyone. Either it is Amazon, either it is Azure, either it is Google Cloud. But they give them some proprietary name also. So similar to that, Amazon call their data center with the name availability zones. So these availability zones can be many, at least more than one. It can be two, it can be three per regions. So every region is going to have some of the availability zone, and as of now, if I talk about the number of it, there are approx 74 aged. Why approx even? That's the fixed number has been declared by Amazon, that as of March 2020 they are having 74 aged. Why I'm talking about March here all the time? Because every year of when we talk about March of every year, that's the financial closing month, right? So they announce what they have up to now. Then they are going to announce now in the next year March, that okay, how many total now maybe regions they have captured now, and what are the number of ability zones they have. So as of March 2020, they declared that they are having 24 regions, and out of these 24 regions, they are keeping 74 aged availability zones. Then when we talk about next thing, edge location. So edge locations are actually dependent on two things. One is CDN and another one is POP. So CDN is known as Content Delivery Network and POP is known as Point of Presence. Now let me explain this all things in a graphical way. Maybe let me go to my white page, and here let me explain these things, how it is going to happen here. So let's say that maybe Amazon has decided to make one region in India. So they will be making one region first of all, which will be covering whole India. So they have created one region. This is one region. Inside one region, they can have multiple data center. Maybe one data center they have somewhere maybe in Mumbai. Maybe the another data center they have somewhere in another city, that is maybe in Delhi. Maybe they have another data center somewhere else, maybe in another city called Bangalore, like that. So these will be called as a AZ, and they also give the number to them. For example, AZ1, AZ2, then they have AZ3. So these are availability zone. These are the data center within the same region. Region is Mumbai, India. Same type of one region they can maybe make it in Tokyo, which is the capital of Japan, right? So there also they can have multiple data center. Maybe one is in capital city, maybe another one is in another city, like that. So those data centers will be known as availability zones. So I hope you understood now what is region and what is availability zone. So every region is going to have minimum of 2 availability zone, but max it can be 3, it can be 4, it can be 5, it can be 6, depending on the size of region and the demand of the cloud services within that region. All right. So for example, I want to make my instance, I want to make one virtual machine to use by my company, and my company is somewhere in, let's say that in Mumbai, which is a city in India. So when I'm making that virtual machine, when I go to follow the steps to make the virtual machine on AWS, they will first ask me which region you want to choose, where you want to keep running your virtual machine. So I will be choosing which region. I will go to the list of all the region offered by Amazon, meaning that where are the regions where the Amazon exists. So obviously I am going to choose the nearest region, that is going to be Mumbai, which is in India. If somebody from South Africa, they are willing to maybe have an instance on the AWS. So when they are creating a virtual machine, they are going to choose the region. Which one? They will be choosing region of Johannesburg. So that is how we choose the region. Region is nothing else, it's a geographical area which is being covered by the Amazon. Now within that region, your virtual machine is going to be running on which agent, which data center, that will be not disclosed to you. Cloud provider, they are not going to disclose which data center actually your virtual machine is running, in which data center it is running, or maybe at which particular server computer which is hosting your virtual machine. Those information are not going to be disclosed. Only you will be knowing that your virtual machine, your instance is running in this specific region. But why do they have multiple AZ there? Why do they have actually multiple availability zone there? Because they want to have kind of, maybe they can have backup also here. Let's say that whatever instance is running here, they want to keep their backup of at another data center, and that another data center can be at the same geographical location also, or it can be at the different geographical location also. But this time geographical location means maybe just change of the city, but it should be it's supposed to be within the same region. For example, if I take a region of India, so this second AZ will be also within India, but maybe in some different city, or maybe within the same city. So they have multiple AZ, and this all AZ is having a very nice communication among them. It is connected with very high speed of internet. So either your virtual machine is running on this AZ, or either it is running on this, or in case if it fails and your now virtual machine is running on this, you will not be having any problem at all. The internet communication between these AZ are very high, and you will not be facing any challenge because of changing of any AZ or something. So that's the two terms we have discussed about. Those are regions and aged. Now the second thing comes that, third thing comes that age location. What is the meaning of age location is? As per its name, it is available at the age location. For example, let me take example like this. Let's say that I take example of any place or any country. Let me just take example like maybe there is a country and the country is having very less speed of internet. For example, there is a country here and this country is having maybe very less internet speed. Let me take example of maybe a country called Nepal. So Nepal is having very low speed of internet if I compare it with India or China, which is nearest country of it. So there, obviously, if AWS going to provide a service to Nepal users, and if these people who are sitting maybe in Nepal, they don't have good speed, so obviously what Amazon is going to do, Amazon is not going to keep any kind of here data center. They will not make any maybe agent there. So if there is no agent, to whom he will communicate, the customer will communicate to which device. So for that condition, they are looking for the term called CDN and POP. So Amazon is going to set up some CDN. CDN can be maybe in China, which is near to Nepal, or maybe the CDN can be in India. Why? Because India is also having better bandwidth, fast internet, and China is also having a fast internet. So there they will keep a computer, and that computer is going to keep the cache of original server, which is maybe in America, which is maybe in USA. So to visiting every time by this Nepali user, every time going up to this USA data center, which is very hectic for them, what Amazon can offer them, that Amazon has put a CDN here in India, and that CDN is doing what? It is keeping a copy or cache of that main server. So this CDN can also offer exactly the same information to this client if they are looking for. So CDN is a service. CDN is what? It is a service which is being offered to the customer. But to consult to this CDN, they also need a server computer running here, which will be called as a POP. So this POP server, meaning that the request of any Nepali customer or the user who are sitting in Nepal, their request will be first going to the nearest POP. POP will take help of CDN where the cache data is there, and it will respond back and he will get the data there. He will get the services there. But how this CDN service is being offered? Because it is getting the cache from where? It is getting the cache from this US. Sometime maybe you have seen this practical also, that if sometime you visit Google and you search for something, they bring immediate response to you, but it will be mentioned that it is a cache output. Maybe you have searched before about that something and they just give you the cache. Many number of company, if you talk about Netflix, if you talk about YouTube, they all are having CDN. They all use CDN because, for example, if there is a video, let's say there is a video which is created by a user in USA. If I am in India, I want to watch that video. So my traffic will be from India to USA, which is just very far away, which will be having, you can say that the latency will be higher there. So in that scenario, what YouTube does, that YouTube use CDN functions, CDN service. So what they have in India also, they have some CDN service running there. Meaning that in India they also have some server, maybe this is India, so here they are also going to have some server which will be keeping the cache of YouTube in America. The whatever YouTube server in America is having the data, one cache copy of it is going to be always available here in this place. So it is going to be always stored here. So when I am here opening my laptop and want to watch the video, maybe I want to watch a football match which has happened maybe last year or something. So those video are also available in the cache of the nearest CDN. So when I want to watch that video, this CDN is just going to help me. So this YouTube server is having no more load. The load is on CDN. It is just keeping the cache of it. So it reduces the load on the main server as well as it gives the better speed to the customer also. So this CDN works with the help of one more term here called as a POP. If I tell you the example of, for example, let's say that example of telecom company. So in your city, maybe let's say that in your city you have a exchange center, your phone exchange center. But maybe you are in a rural area, maybe you are in the village. So from there, how will you connect to this center? How will you connect to this exchange center? So in your rural area also, you must be having some tower of the company, right? You have some tower there. So your phone just uses who is the first device to whom it talks to this tower. This tower is connected already with this exchange center, and this exchange center is connected worldwide. So that's how you make the communication. So here this tower is actually also working something similar like your POP device. Now let me go back to this. So here we are having two terms, CDN and POP. What is CDN is? So CDN is actually it is a service which is being offered. It is a service which is giving the cache content to the customer. Where if we talk about POP, POP is a server. POP is a point of presence. Who is the device? What is the device who is nearest to you? So whenever you have some communication, he will be the first point of presence. You will be directly getting in touch with him first. So as of now, if I talk about the numbers, Amazon is having almost 216 number of POP, where 205 CDN are there out of world. So these are some of the numbers you have to keep in your mind. Total number of regions right now covered by the Amazon is 24. Total number of availability zone of Amazon is 74. They are having almost 216 POP point of presence and 205, you can call it also edge location or you can call it CDN. So 205 edge locations are there as of now. So now in upcoming video, I mean maybe in the next video or next session, I'm also going to talk about, I'm also going to go through the console of AWS. So when I will logging to AWS console, I will try to show you there also how you are going to see the regions and all. By the way, you can even search about this region by yourself also. For example, if you go to any of the browser and you search there, just simply go to Google and search about Amazon regions. If you go for list or something, so they will be giving you, you see this is a picture also offered by Amazon. So if you look at this picture, it is going to tell you what are the regions they have actually. So here if you scroll down a bit, they have just given the explanation about it, that what is the edge location is and where they have. So you see edge locations are there. These are the location: Atlanta, Boston, Chicago, Dallas, Fort Worth, Denver. So these are the place where they have the AWS edge locations. In this picture, wherever you see this orange color circle, that is explaining about the regions, and this blue one is talking about edge location. Some of the name are also here, like US East region is having almost not almost, it is having actually 3 availability zone. If you see here, US based region is having 3 availability zone and it was launched in 2011. US West is having 4 availability zone in its region. West US West is having 3, Canada Central is having 3. So this way you will be able to get or see the details. If I go here, if I want to see how many number of regions are there and age locations are there in Asia Pacific, so I can click on Asia Pacific, and you see in Asia only they are having their regions. Maybe you see here mainland China, that's one region. Asia Pacific, Sydney, they have one region. In Tokyo they have another region. Seoul they have another region. Ningxia, it is in mainland China, there is also a region. Then they have Osaka. This is Mumbai in India, and you see here in Mumbai region there is also 3 availability zones are, and this Mumbai region was launched in 2016. They have another in Hong Kong. So this way you will be able to get to know which is your nearest region and which is your nearest availability zone is also. But generally availability zone details are not going to get disclosed, so you will have to just search about it, or when you are already a client of the AWS you will be able to ask them also. But what I wanted to just display here, that by going through their site you will be always able to get the up-to-date information, that how many total number of regions they have, how many total edge locations they have, and where exactly they have it. So that was all about it, what I wanted to show you, what I wanted to share with you in this particular specific part, which we are right now going with the part number 4 of this training. So I hope all the information which I tried to share here was informative enough for all of you, and I would like to thank you also.